Hola, muy buenas noches para todos. Bienvenidos a nuestra sesión con la Universidad de Alberta. Hoy terminamos el ciclo de universidades de Canadá, en donde Colfuturo tiene convenios de cooperación, y cerramos con nuestro partner más antiguo de Canadá, que es la Universidad de Alberta. Esta universidad ofrece a los beneficiarios de Colfuturo un beneficio en donde las personas que van a hacer maestrías basadas en tesis, maestrías en investigación, van a recibir el valor de la matrícula como si fueran estudiantes locales. Les cuento que en esta universidad hemos apoyado principalmente personas en el área de ciencias básicas, en ingenierías. Sin embargo, el convenio está abierto a cualquier programa que esté basado en tesis. Igual también les quiero contar que a lo largo de la historia hemos apoyado a 125 colombianos en la Universidad de Alberta, y que este año, en el 2024, seleccionamos 9 estudiantes que planean realizar sus estudios allí. Entonces, nos acompaña esta noche Nicole, que ha sido nuestra partner durante todos estos años. Nicole les va a hacer la presentación en inglés, y la idea es que ustedes puedan ir colocando sus preguntas en el chat. Al final de la presentación de Nicole, yo le voy a leer las preguntas que ustedes tengan. Entonces, good night, Nicole. Thank you for joining us today and for helping us with this presentation. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Joanna. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm just going to share my screen. Just one moment, please. Okay, here we go. All right. So as Joanna said, my name is Nicole Dewart. I work at the University of Alberta. I work specifically in the sponsored students program, which I'll talk about initially. But some of the topics I'm going to talk about today is our location and our campus, a little bit about the university itself, student supports and services that you would have access to if you were studying here. Then I'll go a bit more into things like admission requirements and application procedures if you do decide you would like to study here. And then we'll get into things like tuition and cost of living and how things work with the Colfuturo U Alberta co-funding agreement. Okay, so to get started, so this is the program that I administer at the university, the sponsored student program. So sponsored students are those who have a scholarship or funding from their home country. So this is, I work very closely with Colfuturo students. Some of the things that I help students with is assessing if they meet the minimum admission requirements, giving support, finding a supervising professor, which I'll talk a little bit about later, supporting students with the application process. And then if you are admitted and you come to the university, I'll be kind of your main point of contact for anything that might come up, assisting with your transition or things that come up during your studies here. So a little bit about where we are. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Alberta, we are more so on the western side of Canada. We are located in the city of Edmonton, which is the capital city of the province of Alberta. So we're right kind of in the middle of Alberta. So a little bit about Edmonton. We are considered right now one of Canada's most affordable cities to live in, especially in comparison to some of the larger cities like Vancouver and Toronto. So your funds from Colfuturo, if you were to be approved for that, would go a much longer way in a more smaller, affordable city like Edmonton. So Edmonton is about 3 hours to the Canadian Rockies, which are a major UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a great place to explore at any time of the year. Edmonton, because we are one of the largest major cities as far north as possible, we get a lot of sunlight. during the year. And so we have a record number of days of bright sunshine. So even in the winter season, when it might be colder, we still get a lot of sunshine, which is great, especially in the summer season, where right now the sun doesn't set until, after 10 p.m. right now. So it really extends our summer days and makes it a lot more enjoyable, especially for things like festivals that go on during the summer. We also have the largest urban park space in North America. So many times larger than Central Park in New York City. And we're lucky that the University of Alberta campus is right on the edge of this. So you would have easy access to a lot of trails if you enjoy things like cycling, jogging, hiking, skiing. So lots of access to outdoor activities from our campus. And like I said, we do have a lot of festivals in Edmonton. We are Canada's festival city, so it doesn't matter what time of year that you are here, there's always something to do every single week. There's a new festival. So here's a shot of our folk music festival that happens every summer. It's coming up soon here in Edmonton. If you're not a fan of outdoor activities, I will also note that we have the largest shopping mall in North America. So if that's more your thing, this mall has everything from an amusement park, a water park, skating rink. So lots of things to do inside as well, including a number of restaurants and cafes from a wide range of countries and cultures. Edmonton has little pockets of communities of immigrants from a number of different parts of the world. So it's really great to try and explore those cultures and try new foods and cuisines. And we're also home to the largest museum in Western Canada, which has a lot of interesting dinosaur fossils. Alberta is home to some of the largest collections of dinosaur fossils, which you can see in person. So yeah, that's a great place to explore as well. So one of the questions I frequently get from students is about the weather here in Edmonton, in Canada in general. Folks want to know just how cold it can get. So these are some average temperatures that you can expect here in Edmonton. So right now we're kind of in the peak of the summer season. I would say these temperatures are actually higher now, especially with climate change. This last week and a half, it's been above 30 every day. But then you can see like we have 4 distinct seasons. So usually, September, it really starts to go down, September to October. And then winter season kind of officially begins in November. And that usually lasts 4 months before it starts to warm up again in the spring. So you can see we do get some cold temperatures here, but I assure you, all the buildings have indoor heating, and we still have lots of outdoor activities and festivals. We just really try and make students aware of the types of clothing that you will need for a winter season, because as long as you're dressed properly, you can still enjoy a lot of outdoor activities. So transportation, students, with your tuition and fees, it includes what's called an ARC card. So this is like a student discounted transportation pass. So this would then give you access to any of our trains or buses that go anywhere within the city and connects to some smaller communities outside the city as well. There is a major bus station and 2 what we call light rail transit or LRT stations. So these are these trains here that are located right on campus. So you have very easy access to kind of any of the transportation options to get to other areas of the city. Edmonton, or the University of Alberta, is quite central in Edmonton. So this bus station is kind of a main destination. We do have an expanding network of designated lanes just for bicycles and e-scooters. That's becoming more common as well. And we do have a bicycle library on campus. So if you do enjoy cycling, we do have folks here who will help students get set up with, maybe a used bike, and they do training on things like bicycle maintenance. Now, if you have a spouse and or children that you're thinking of bringing with you if you were to come study abroad, we do have a number of graduate students who come here with their families, so that is a possibility. We do have a childcare center on campus and other ones that are very close to campus. I will note, though, there's no kind of subsidy for childcare fees. So if you are looking to place your child in daycare, those are kind of not covered, I believe, with your funding. So keep that in mind. If your child is between the age of 5 to 18, they can enroll in our public school system for free. And I would say the vast majority of students in Alberta are in public schools. Private schools are not very common here. That's not really the standard. And if you are staying here for longer than 1 year, then you and your entire family are eligible for free Alberta healthcare insurance, which covers kind of essential doctor's visits, essential hospital visits, things like that. And we also have what's called a spousal work permit. So your spouse can apply through this. That would allow them to work while you are studying here. So a little bit more about the university. We have approximately just over 42,000 students from 159 different countries. About 8,000 of those students are international. But when we look at the graduate student population, so just master's and PhD students, over 40% of our graduate students are international students. So you're going to be working with students from a wide range of countries, and also professors as well are coming from a number of locations. So it's a very diverse campus. We are ranked consistently among the top 5 universities in Canada and in the top 100 in the world. We ranked, actually, this just changed. We're now number 6 in the world for our global impact rankings. And what this means is that we work very hard to focus on the UNESCO development goals. So we are recognized consistently for the research and the work that our campus does to create a more sustainable world. We also rank very high in artificial intelligence research globally. And we also rank number 2 in Canada for our graduate employment rates. So what this means is that employers in Canada tend to recognize graduates from the University of Alberta as high quality graduates, and students are able to get into jobs in their field much quicker than graduates from a lot of other institutions. So our Faculty of Graduate Studies does a very good job of preparing our grad students for their career goals after their programs here. So we're very well known here in Canada for our research excellence. We have over 400 different research partnerships around the world. Because Alberta is kind of the center of Canada's energy sector, we are well known specifically for our energy research. And we have the second largest research library in Canada. So you will have access to all the resources and publications that you need to be able to do your research here. Now, I often get asked by students if they can also work while they are studying here, and yes, that is possible. Students who have a study permit here in Canada can work part-time while you are studying. So usually it's up to 20 hours per week that you can work either on or off campus. And I will note also, we do have here in Canada something called the postgraduate work permit. And this allows graduates in Canada to work for a certain period of time, up to a maximum of 3 years, either in your field or another field. So if you wanted to get a little bit of work experience before returning to Columbia, this would be a possibility. And Alberta is quite known in Canada as having among the highest salaries. So a lot of folks tend to like to stay to work here, and we do receive a lot of people coming from other areas in Canada for job opportunities here in Alberta. Now here on our campus, we do have a number of student residence buildings. So you can choose from a wide range. We do have residence buildings that are specific to graduate students. So you can choose. We have kind of a 2-bedroom apartment style where you each have your own bedroom, but you share a kitchen, living room. Or if you prefer just to have your own space, if you have the budget for it, if you want to spend a little bit more money, we do have some studio apartments if you just want to live by yourself. There's lots of options. There's lots of cafeterias. If you don't really want to do a lot of cooking, maybe especially in your first semester, we do have meal plans available that students can opt into, depending on how often they would prefer to access that. So there are lots of options for you. I would say our campus residences always have space for the most part for our graduate students. Here is a shot of our International Student Services Center. So this center has international advisors who are all trained in immigration advising. So they can help students with their study permit application process. Or if you are already here and you want to renew your study permit, they can assist you with that. They provide services like airport pickup and welcome for newly arrived students. They put on a big orientation at the start of the academic year. And they just provide a lot of other advising services for whatever might come up for you. They do a lot of programming as well. So they offer an English conversation club once a week. So if you're just wanting to practice your English spoken skills or just trying to meet new people as well, that's a great program. We also have a peer support program as well to kind of connect new students with students who have already been here for at least a year and are very familiar with the city and our campus. Some other services and supports I want to make sure you're aware of, especially when it comes to academics and health. We do have an academic success center, so they put on a lot of workshops and events for students. So for example, for graduate students, they put on workshops on things like how to prepare if you want to present at a conference, how to write a thesis proposal or research proposal, how to do a literature review, kind of essential things that all grad students need to have those skills in. When it comes to health services, we do have a health center here on campus. So you don't have to leave campus if you want to see a doctor about anything. We do have doctors here on campus to meet with students. There's also a pharmacy in the same building. So if you get a prescription for medication, you just walk downstairs and the pharmacy to fill it is right there. All students have our mandatory health and dental insurance plan. So that covers things like dental cleanings, vision, eye care, prescription medication, things like that. We also have a counseling center for students. And a number of recreation facilities as well. I think I have a couple of shots here in the upcoming slides. and over 450 different student groups. So whatever your hobbies or interests are, there's a very good chance that there are other students here with similar interests who have already formed a student group. So usually at the start of the academic year, there's kind of a student clubs fair. So you can kind of see what groups are out there and who's recruiting more members. So here's a shot of some of our sports facilities at our North Campus, which is our main campus, where most of you would be studying if you were here. So yeah, we have a beautiful climbing wall area. We have ice rinks, swimming pools. We do have fitness equipment, treadmills, weights, things like that. But we also have, you can take the train to our South Campus, which is just, a 5-minute train ride away to a number of other sports facilities as well. Especially if you're into racket sports, there's a lot of courts and facilities for students to access. So this access to these facilities is included in your fees. We also have a number of fitness classes. Those you would get like a student discount if you wanted to sign up for any of those. So now going more into the academic side of things, these are our faculties that do offer graduate level programs, so masters and PhDs. So you can see we're a very comprehensive university. We cover a number of different areas. I'm not going to go into all of these today, but I'd encourage you to check out our website if you would like to explore any of these faculties and see the types of programs that they offer. I'll talk a little bit about the types of graduate degrees we provide. So when looking at master's degrees, we have 2 different types of masters. So first, I'll talk about the course-based masters. So it's just that you would only be doing coursework, and then you just have a small final capping project at the end. So a course-based master's, I would say on average, takes 1 to 1.5 years, depending on which faculty you're studying in. And a course-based master's, there's not really many scholarships for this program, and it doesn't fall under the Colfuturo agreement, which I'll talk about a bit later, but most of the students who come through Colfuturo are here under a thesis-based master's, which you'll still do some courses, but it's fewer courses. And they're meant to be courses to help you with your research and your thesis. So more of your time is spent on researching a specific topic and then writing a thesis about it. So a thesis-based master's, I would say, takes an average of 2 to 2.5 years. Entry into a master's degree typically requires that you have a bachelor degree in that field in order to be considered. If any of you are looking at doing a doctoral degree, so a PhD, it's the same kind of structure in that you will start with some courses. So these are going to be courses to kind of help you prepare for your candidacy exam, which is usually around year 2. And then once you pass that, that's essentially saying that you have the knowledge and skills to proceed with research in that focus on your research and your thesis. So a doctoral degree typically takes anywhere between 4 to 6 years. It really depends on how you progress in your research and your writing. A doctoral degree will typically require that you have a master's degree in a related area. The only exception I've seen to this is maybe students who have done some research in their bachelor's degree and have had a really high GPA in their bachelor degree. So if that's the case, you might be able to bypass the master's altogether. It's kind of up to the department you apply to if they would want to consider that. Now, in looking at our admission requirements, we require a minimum GPA of 3 out of 4 during your last 2 years of full-time studies. So, if you did poorly in your first year of your bachelor degree, don't worry. We're not going to look at that. We're only going to focus on your grades in your most recent 2 years. For English, we do require either an IELTS 6.5 or TOEFL 90. I know a lot of students are doing the Duolingo online exam, so we would need to see a Duolingo score of 120. So either of those test scores would be acceptable. I will note here that these are just the absolute minimums, but some programs, especially if they're much more competitive, might ask for higher requirements. So for example, if you are wanting to apply to a program in a health sciences area, like public health or dentistry, I know they ask for a higher level of English. Also for GPA, I know some of our programs that are very competitive, like economics, they will ask for a GPA of at least a 3.3 to, I believe 3.5 is their competitive average. So if you're unsure, you can check the website of the department that you are interested in applying to for their specific requirements. Some other things that you should think about before applying to a program. Assuming if you're applying to a research-based program, so like a thesis-based master's or PhD, it's really important that you find a supervising professor before you submit an application. So I will talk a little bit more about that in future slides. Some other things to consider are start dates. So here at the University of Alberta, all of our programs have a September start date. That is when the majority of students start their studies here. But some programs do have a January start date as well. So if you absolutely cannot make September work, some programs might be willing to consider a January start date. Deadlines as well really vary depending on the program that you are interested in applying to. So I just gave some examples here of some common programs, just to give you an idea of how varied the application deadlines can be. But I would say some of the earliest deadlines are in our education and law programs, which are, I believe, in December each year. So something to keep in mind as you're planning for future applications. And in terms of required documents, so things that you need to prepare for a potential application, we would need to see a CV, your university transcripts, and degree certificates. So we would need to see both the original language and an English translation. So if your institution doesn't provide transcripts or translations for English, it can be done by any certified translator in your home city. We'll need to see the English test score, a statement of research intent or interest, which is important when finding a supervisor. So I'll talk a bit about this statement later. We'll also need the names and email addresses of 3 references. So these are folks, maybe academic references or maybe supervisors from work or volunteer experience. As long as they are people, non-family or friends, it should be a professional capacity, people who can speak to your ability to be successful in a graduate program. As I said, if you're applying to a research-based program, typically they'll want to see confirmation from a professor who has agreed to supervise you. And then some departments might have additional requirements as well. Primarily, I'm thinking about programs in economics or business. So business, you have to provide either a GMAT or GRE test score. Economics also requires a GRE, psychology as well. Those are the only three I can think of. I would say the vast majority of programs here do not require these tests. Now, this is something that I've mentioned a few times already, the need to find a supervising professor if you are wanting to apply to a research-based program. One thing I will note, like if you want to try this on your own, you can email the professor whom you want to do your research with. Email them your CV, your transcripts, English score, and a statement of intent. And then just ask the professor if they would have some time to have a video chat with you to discuss the possibility of studying with them. If you are planning to apply for or going to be approved for Colfuturo, part of my job is to kind of assist with this process. So if you want some assistance connecting with professors, I would be happy to do that. That way I can then tell the professor about the Colfuturo agreement, because most professors here are not very familiar with it. So that way I can make sure that they are aware of the details. So an important document to kind of prepare, and this is really for any application to a university in Canada, not just for Alberta, but a statement of research intent. So this is a little bit different than a research proposal. So this statement is 1 to 2 pages maximum. And you're going to talk about why you want to work with that professor, what about their research interests you, talk about how your interests are connected. There needs to be a kind of a match there. You can talk about how your academic background and your experiences would be beneficial to that professor's research group. You can talk about your goals after your grad program. So for example, if you are applying for a master's program, but your long-term goal is to maybe continue on to a PhD, like if you want to be a professor or a full-time researcher, be sure to mention that, because if you have a good experience working with this professor, maybe they're looking for long-term students who are interested in continuing on to a PhD. The one piece of advice I will give is not to write one general statement that you can then send to any professor. That's what the majority of professors get. If you really want your statement to stand out for a professor, really target it to that specific professor. So, a lot of the information can be the same from statement to statement, but maybe just have your initial paragraph adjusted accordingly to the professor that you're writing to. So for example, if there's a publication the professor wrote that really interested you, be sure to mention that. That would really catch their attention and increase the chances that they would read on and be interested in you. Okay, so that's kind of the details of the requirements and application process. Now about the agreement. So we've had a long relationship with Colfuturo, and our co-funding agreement with them essentially is for students in thesis-based graduate programs. So a thesis-based master's or a PhD up to a maximum of 2 years. So you would receive basically a tuition discount if you had the Colfuturo funding for this program. So instead of being charged the full international tuition fees, you would be charged the same tuition rate as our Canadian students are charged. So yeah, I will note, although this agreement is specific for thesis-based programs, that doesn't mean that you can't study here with Colfuturo funding if you want to do a course-based master's. We do have a number of students who come to us with Colfuturo funding and they do a course-based master's, they just wouldn't get this type of tuition discount. We're only able to offer that to thesis-based, research programs. So part of being considered through this agreement, students must receive at least 16,000 US dollars per year for their living expenses from Colfuturo in order to qualify to fall under this agreement. And the reason it's this amount is because here in Canada, we do have a minimum amount that students need to prove that they will receive if they want to qualify for a study permit to study here. So we want to make sure that students are receiving the absolute minimum that's needed. But you can request more than this for your living expenses. 16,000 US dollars is, on the low side for living expenses here. I recommend having more than this, but this is the baseline that we need to see. And so if you are receiving this from Colfuturo, then you can budget with Colfuturo how much you would like them to pay for your domestic tuition and fees. So this would be up to a maximum of 2 years. And if you are approved for all of this and you come to study here, so we will email you the tuition invoices every semester, and then students would just upload those to the Colfuturo portal in order to proceed with payment for those. So we have a pretty good system in place. So it's a very smooth system. So if students ever have any questions or current concerns about it, we're happy to address those. So to give you an idea of what the tuition looks like this current year, so our thesis and doctoral programs, it's coming out to close to 94 Canadian per year. That's the international student tuition rate. So this is how much international students pay. But if you were to come under the Colfuturo agreement, it would be more like 5,000 per year. So this is in Canadian dollars. So you'd be receiving almost, a 50% discount. It's pretty significant. In addition to tuition, students are also charged approximately 2,200 Canadian per year for non-instructional fees. So these are things like that health and dental insurance plan, your access to the recreation, the subsidized transportation pass, like all of those things, all those supports and services come out to about that much per year. Now, if you are wanting to do a course-based master's instead, like I said, you wouldn't get the discount. And the cost of a course-based master's really varies depending on which program you want to study. So I would say a lot of them, and especially in arts and science, work out to be about $15,000 to $20,000 Canadian. A master's in engineering, a course-based master's in engineering, is more like just over 40,000 Canadian. This 83,000, that's for our executive MBA program. This is the most expensive program. So if you're unsure of what the cost would be for the course-based program that you're interested in, feel free to just email me and I can let you know the exact amount. Cost of living, like I said, the agreement between Colfuturo and Alberta says you have to receive at least 16,000 US per year. So whatever that comes out to Canadian, I don't know, like probably 18,000, 19,000 Canadian. But I would recommend, especially with cost of living increases everywhere at the moment, most students typically budget between 200 to 2,200 Canadian per month. This would be my recommendation if you want to be living comfortably and not having to worry about those expenses. So I think that is it. Yes, that is all the information I have for you today. So anyone is welcome to email me. I can be reached at uaissp@ualberta.ca. So feel free if you think of more questions after today that we don't address, feel free to contact me and I'd be happy to address those. But for now, I think we'll just turn it over to some questions.
Thank you, Nicole. And yes, there are some questions. So the first thing that I'm going to mention is going to be in Spanish. Para todos los que están interesados en beneficiarse con este convenio, les recuerdo que el primer paso es ser beneficiario de Colfuturo. Colfuturo tiene una convocatoria anual que para el 2024 ya pasó y en el 2025 abrirá a inicios de enero, cierra el 28 de febrero. Para que tengan la información completa sobre cómo funciona el esquema de financiación de Colfuturo, el proceso de selección y datos de la convocatoria del 2025, los invito el viernes, primer viernes de cada mes a las 8 de la mañana y segundo sábado de cada mes a las 9:30 de la mañana a nuestras sesiones informativas. Y esto me sirve para amarrarlo a la primera pregunta que hace William Carantón, que dice, al momento de ser aceptado por la Universidad de Alberta, Colfuturo notifica a la universidad para aplicar el convenio y con ello reducir el monto de la matrícula. Entonces les explico cómo es el procedimiento. Una vez ustedes son seleccionados por Colfuturo, Colfuturo enviará los nombres de todas las personas seleccionadas a la Universidad de Alberta, a Nicole. Nicole va a validar si ustedes van a un programa de tesis y a esas personas pues recibirán el beneficio del convenio. Entonces, el primer paso es que seas seleccionado por Colfuturo, William. Puedes estar en paralelo haciendo el proceso con la universidad. De hecho, en la charla verán que lo mejor es tener la admisión para aplicar a Colfuturo. No es obligatorio, pero es nuestro consejo. La siguiente pregunta, now I'm going back to English, is from Ligia Nicole. She was selected this year by Colfuturo. She's going to do a master in data science, and she wants to know if the day to start the program is in February and how much is the registration, and if she can pay that since this year, if she can pay that even though she's going to start in 2025.
Ah, yes. Okay. So sorry, can you go back to the start date in February? Is that what she was
Yes.
asking? Yeah.
Yes.
We don't have a February start date. It's typically either just September or January. So it would be early January would be the closest to that. And yes, you are welcome to make a payment before starting. It would just kind of sit as a credit on your account here. That's not a problem at all.
Maria Alejandra says the University of Alberta has a program focused on improving English before the masters, in case the level of the English is lower than that required. So she's asking if there is a program where she can improve her English skills.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have an English language school. They do have a course that's specific to preparing students for graduate studies. So that is a possibility. My understanding, though, is there aren't extra funds from Colfuturo for English classes. So I believe you would have to budget that yourself. And not all programs will accept completion of those English courses as meeting the requirement. So if you're unsure, just email me and I can let you know if the program that you want to apply to will accept those English courses as meeting their requirement.
Darwin, he has like a question, many questions. So the first one is bridge program to degree programs, and how is the visa permit? Could I change my kind of visa in Canada, bridge program, and continue immediately with the master degree?
Not sure what bridge program Darwin is speaking to. I would say, like, I can maybe put in the chat, because this is kind of immigration related stuff, which I'm not a certified immigration advisor. So I would hate to give any incorrect information. So I can give maybe Darwin the email address for immigration advisors if he would like to contact them. I'll put that in the chat for everyone.
The next question from Darwin is, how can I get the response from the supervisor if I don't have the required score of English in English?
So if you are close, Like if you're working on it, if you're very close to the requirement, maybe just slightly below, you can still reach out to a professor if that's the case, and just let the professor know that you are working on improving it. Let them know when you're planning on taking another test, so that the professor is aware that, hopefully you will meet that requirement.
And the next question is related with our agreement that says that is going up to 2025. So he's asking if students should legalize before December 25 to get the discount, or how long will the discount be available if the agreement ends in 2025?
I anticipate we would be renewing the agreement, so I don't anticipate that students need to worry about that. And if you start before that expiry date, and for some reason if it's not renewed, we would still go by the terms of the agreement until students are done, that who have come through the agreement. So I wouldn't worry about that, Darwin.
And just to let him know, we have renewed the agreement like 3-4 times, so
Many
we don't think it's
times.
going to end yet.
Yeah.
There is a question from Juan Carlos Narvaez that is related with Colfuturo, so I'm going to reply to him directly on the chat. Carlos Artunduaga, what is the Duolingo test score that you accept?
Yeah, so Duolingo, it would be 120 overall with at least 100 on each section. So that's what we're looking for.
Juan Carlos Narvaez, the benefit that you mentioned for masters, the cover, does it apply for PhD programs, or is only for masters?
Yeah, so we do have students with Colfuturo funds who use them for PhD programs here. Just keep in mind that the Colfuturo funding and the agreement is only for 2 years, whereas a PhD takes a minimum of 4 years. So you can use the funding for PhD, but just have a plan in place for when that Colfuturo funding ends. So that's a discussion to have with a supervising professor here at UAlberta to make sure that they can continue funding you after your Colfuturo funding is finished.
Pablo Riascos, he's saying that this is the first time he joins one of the sessions, and he would like to receive more information to start his process. So could you please tell him what he should write? Because he's sending his email, but I think it's better if he email you and you get back to him.
Yeah, I'll just put in the chat here, I'll put my email address for everyone to see, so you can email me directly.
Okay. Sorry, I was reading because this one is related also with the agreement and also with the supervisor. So Kelly wants to know how is the process that you provide to students to contact a supervisor from now, because she's planning to apply in 2025, but she wants to start contacting a supervisor from now.
Yeah, that's a great question. My recommendation, so if you are thinking about applying for September 2025, I would start the process almost a year in advance. September is a bit busy for professors, so I would maybe not contact them in September, but usually like October would be a good time to start reaching out to professors, because that's also when our online application opens up as well. So, start as early as possible, because professors, they're making decisions on accepting students, throughout the year. So the earlier you can get on their radar, the better.
And she's asking some questions below that she has emailed many supervisors, but she hasn't received any response. Do you have any advice for those kind of cases?
Yeah, I hear that a lot, and I hear your frustration with that. It's certainly frustrating. There are a number of reasons that could be. I would say don't take it too personally. Sometimes professors are just very busy, or maybe professors just aren't looking for new grad students, so they just might not be responding to those types of inquiries. But if your intent is that you are planning on applying for Colfuturo funding, I would recommend if you're having trouble getting responses, let me know and maybe I can review the email that you sent and maybe I can tell the professor about the Colfuturo agreement and funding. Because like I said earlier, most professors aren't familiar with it. So if they have a University of Alberta staff member explaining the details and confirming things for them, then they might be more likely to respond and be open to that.
Valentina Sandoval is asking if she can get a scholarship from the university, even though she is a Colfuturo beneficiary.
Yeah, that is possible. It kind of depends on how much funding you're receiving from Colfuturo. So we have a number of Colfuturo students who are working as research assistants or teaching assistants here at the university. So they get some income through that. And yeah, like I said, you can work part-time. You can apply for other scholarships. Every scholarship has specific requirements. So if you are already receiving a certain amount of funding, some scholarships you might not be eligible for. But I know of a number of Colfuturo students who have been successful in getting other scholarships and funding in addition to their Colfuturo funds.
And the last question is from Kelly. She's asking if there is possible to receive any guidance from Colfuturo to apply to the program. So the answer is no, but Nicole is here to help you with that. So feel free to reach out to Nicole and she can help you with some guidance regarding the application to the program at the University of Alberta. And regarding the financial details, again, I invite you all to participate on one of our talks that are done on Fridays and Saturdays, and you can have all the information about our financial scheme. Also, our advice is also to check permanently the social network of the university, of the embassy, because sometimes there are scholarships and opportunities for PhD students that the government of Canada offers. So just make sure to follow all the social medias to be aware of these opportunities for Colombian students. So Nicole, we don't have any other question on the chat. I don't know if you want to finish with any advice or last message for the students.
Yeah, no, just thank you everyone for coming. And I would just emphasize, please feel free to contact me at any time. I'm happy to help. My goal is to, welcome more Colfuturo students here. I can connect you with other Colfuturo students as well, especially as you're working through that transition period here. So we have a number of Colfuturo students here already. So we have a good community here and we hope to see many of you here.
So thank you so much, Nicole. It was a pleasure to have you here again, talking with the students. Y a todos ustedes, muy buenas noches. Les deseo muchos éxitos en su proyecto y no olviden conectarse a nuestras redes sociales para saber de otras actividades. En agosto tendremos una sesión con la Embajada de Canadá para hablar de Canadá como destino académico. Quienes se conectaron en días pasados saben que no la pudimos hacer por temas logísticos de la embajada, pero ya está nuevamente programada la sesión para el 12 de agosto. Entonces, para quienes quieren saber desde la embajada cuáles son las fortalezas y las ventajas de estudiar en Canadá, los invito a que estén pendientes de esa sesión. Feliz noche para todos y gracias.